SFNFCI. Are you awake? Okay. Welcome. My name is Rachel Andel, and I work with Saskatchewan First Nations Family and Community Institute, or our acronym is SFNFCI, which is a mouthful, so you can try saying it really fast and see how you do. For our sake and for your sake, I'm going to refer to our organization as the Institute, just because it's a lot easier. So if you're wondering what institute I'm talking about, it's our organization, Saskatchewan First Nations Family and Community Institute, Inc. So who am I? My name is Rachel Andel. I used to be Rachel Melmick. I just was married. It'll be 1 year next week, so wow, pandemic wedding. I'm an SDM consultant, so a Structured Decision Making Consultant with our organization. And I've been working since 2015 with the Institute and providing support to First Nations CFS agencies in working in child welfare. And so I provide support to protection workers, prevention workers, anyone really using structured decision making tools. And so those are really tools that just help us with what information do we need to look at different decision points in the life of a case. And I've just been so fortunate and blessed to work with the agencies in which I have, and our work is really collaborative and it's on invite. So we're a nonprofit organization, and so we only support, like our support is there for our members and it's on invite. And so being invited to a community and the relationships that I've built over the last 6 years have been so impactful, and so been very grateful for the opportunity that I have had and that I continue to have working with the great folks that I'm fortunate to be working with. And one of those great folks that I work with is my colleague Anuja, and so I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Thank you, Rachel. Good morning, everyone. My name is Anuja, and I am the Disabilities Researcher at the Institute. I just want to introduce myself a little bit, since we've gathered here to talk about communities, culture, and family. I thought it'd be a good start for me to tell you a little bit about myself. So I currently live in Saskatoon, but I am originally from Nepal. That is in South Asia, and if people still don't know where that is, I usually just say it's where Mount Everest is, and they get it sometimes. So yeah, I come from the land of mountains. I grew up with mountains, so coming here was different. Yeah, I've started to love it. But yeah, and people always ask me, why Saskatchewan, right? So I tell them I just got a really good opportunity to go to school here. They have a great research program here, so I couldn't let that go. Education is a big part in my family. Both of my parents never finished their school, so they made sure that me and my brother did. So they made sure that we go to good schools, get good education. So last year I graduated, I finished my master's program. I defended my thesis online, and you would think that would be easy, but no, it wasn't. It was still nerve-wracking, and I was just so glad to be done. And I just wanted to do this presentation, and as I'm presenting today, I also think about my family back home and my people, and just listening to everybody yesterday and today talking about their loved ones, their family, their communities and culture. It helps me, and it gives me a path and connect with my family back home. So it's a really my pleasure to be here, and I'm excited to do this presentation. Thank you.
So we're just going to give you a little bit of idea of the organization in which we work. And so Saskatchewan First Nations Family and Community Institute, Inc., or SFNFCI, what is our vision, our mission, and kind of the core areas in which we work? And so our vision is to be the leading innovative, sustainable, holistic center of research and professional learning to organizations serving children, youth, and families. And so the mission is to build capacity within organizations serving children, youth, and families based on First Nations values. And we do that through three main core business areas. And the first one is research, policy, and standards. And so we are going to be showcasing one of those research projects that Anuja has been heading, and that's our disabilities project. We also do all of these things through community-based grassroots collaborative approaches and with working groups. And so we have developed a lot of different, we have one thing called the Customary Standards of Care that has been implemented by MSS in the province, and that has been directed by communities, the First Nations communities and the Institute in collaboration. And so that's something huge that we have developed within Saskatchewan here. The other thing is training and professional development, and that's where my role is. And so providing training to different agency staff. Primarily I work with protection staff, but I also work with prevention and group home shelters. We work with income assistant workers, so it just expands wherever the needs are. And with that, it's training, but it's also one-on-one support and on-site support, as we call it. So going and once we have the training or the facilitation of a series, what is that coaching and mentoring and that process after? And so sometimes that professional development is supporting the supervisors and how to do that with their workers, or providing additional support and mentoring or coaching through different like new skills or existing skills, and how can we build on those. The other thing is with that is we provide a lot of training and support within our own institute that has been developed, but we also have partnerships and we collaborate with different organizations that are experts in different areas, and then we bring that training in and do flow through training and support and organize that and offer it to agencies based on requests and needs, and just to help organize and provide that support for those that we work with. So many of you are from Saskatchewan, but some of you aren't, and so I mean, we're in the middle of the prairies and not many people think of us. I think of us. But just so an idea, here's our map of Saskatchewan. This is our interactive map, but we also have interactive map with all the First Nations delegated agencies, First Nations group homes, shelters, and different things that we have available. And so if you're interested in having access to that digital copy, you just let Anuja or myself know and we can send that to you. And it's quite fun because it gives you an idea of where everything is. Now, just to give you an idea of where our office is, we're based out of Saskatoon, just in Grasswoods area, so it's on the way to Regina if you're leaving Saskatoon on English River Reserve land. We're Treaty 6 land and the homeland of the Métis here in Saskatoon, and so this is where our home base is for where we do our work. However, as a consultant that facilitates and provides on-site support, when it isn't a pandemic, I am always on the road. So I'm never really in the office. I'm always somewhere with the agencies and the members in which we work with. And so just to give you kind of an idea, we travel all the way to the far north, so up to that green area, and we also go all the way down. And so we're all over. And for the consultants, for SDM consultants, there's myself and one other person. And so there's two of us. But the big thing is that we are trying to provide that training and support in the community, because one of the struggles and the things that we want to keep in context is that the workers and the agencies that provide support for the families and the children in which they work, they are traveling all the time, always. And so bringing training to the community is so important. And if that can help with lessen some of that workload of having to come out for trainings, then we want to provide that opportunity as well. The other thing is our SF and FCI values are really what lead and guide all of the work in that which we do at SF and FCI. And so these are values that guide us that are developed with in mind core First Nation values. And they've been guided from our board of directors. And so our board of directors are what guide all the work in which we do. And they make up, our board of directors are made up of different executive directors or EDs from the First Nations Child and Family Service agencies in which we work. And then we also have other individuals. So we have right now a lawyer, an HR person, a finance person as well on that board of directors. And we also have an elder that sits on the board. We also work in collaboration with a team of different elders from all the different communities in which we are connected with. And when we do training or support in different communities, we always ask for that guidance from the organization of who are those strategic partners that want to be a part of that, and how should we be opening and including the knowledge within the community. And lots of times we have different elders that participate with us, and so we're very fortunate to have that ability and that connection. So with these values, some of them, we've taken them and then we've defined them and how we're working with them within our organization. And if you want to see them more, they are on our website at sfnfci.ca. Just plug that. But just here's just 3 examples. So for love, when we define love within our organization, we're saying that we're demonstrating our belief as professional services that all organizations can and will succeed through their commitments to their communities. So we really focus on that. The other one is wisdom. So creating internal capacity through ongoing professional development. And with wisdom also comes humility. And so within humility, what we're thinking about is acknowledging that we need to learn more about the ways in which to better support child and family services, organizations in their service. And so this is a huge thing that is through everything. And so we're not experts. We all have knowledge that can share and build together. And so that's where we really have a collaborative and working group approach within all things that we do. And when we come together at a table, everyone is an expert in that room and bring in that knowledge that we build and work with. And so that's something that we've really been trying to do. Now, with our board of directors, they guide the work. And so they give us direction in areas to support, and they bring feedback too from the agencies in which they run, and just other things that are going on in Saskatchewan. And so these are only a few, not all of them, but areas in which we provide services to the different communities here in Saskatchewan. So we have the research, we have protection workers that we support, prevention workers, group homes. We work with operational capacity. So one big thing is we have strategic planning, and that's something big that we've been doing. And so we have our vision. We have a 20-year vision, a 10-year vision, and a 5-year vision, and that's guided by our board of directors. Now with that, we also share that information with our members and help them in that process with strategic partnerships or community needs assessments when needed. So if that's something that you're interested in, our executive director, Tisha, would be able to share those processes with you. You just ask me later. One thing though that we have developed that has touched on all of these areas is an app called It's My Life. And it's an app that was developed for youth transitioning out of care and to just provide additional information about life skills that they might have missed being in care, that they might not have had a chance with a caregiver. Or just helping guide caregivers and young adults with how to share that knowledge with youth. Or young families where the parents are still trying to figure it out and they don't have some of those skills, or they need extra knowledge in different areas of how to connect with IDs, how to look for housing, how to do different things. What are signs for a healthy relationship? Sometimes we need some guidance because we haven't had the best role models for ourselves in what a healthy relationship looks like. And so having some areas to look at that. So with working group of youth, we created this It's My Life app. It's free. There's a card. Some of you have it on your seats. If you don't, there's tons of these at the front that you can take after. And you can download it on any Apple or Android product or on the computer. We also have like paper books with these. It was additionally put together to help, like I said, youth transitioning out care, but it's expanded. Some group homes will take different sections and just do like a skill building like group activity with youth, and then others will do it one-on-one or just share the information, and individuals look at it on their own. So this is just an example of how it's been utilized and can be used in all the areas in which we serve. And it also has our vision, mission, and values, our website, and our phone number on it in case you want more information about any of the things that we're talking about. So if you need more, we have them at the front. Now, in my role as an SDM consultant, what is SDM? So structured decision making is, like I said, a model that helps with different tools to guide us on what information we need to make a specific decision at this point in the case. And so there's 6 different tools there. And so intake is when we get our referral information, and it just helps us decide, are we screening this out or are we screening it in? Okay, does this follow our mandate? Do we respond to it through prevention, or do we respond to it with protection? And so that can help guide us. Another big area is the safety assessment. So when we go out and we're meeting with families, what can we do? Like, what are our worries? And what can we do to plan to keep the children at home with a safety plan versus apprehending? So what can we do to slow down and build those supports before looking at that last option? And so these are the tools that we use. They're developed by an organization called Evident Change. They used to be called Children's Research Center, or the CRC, but they had a rebrand. So that's who we're talking about. And so they're a bit different. So from our organization, or the Institute, we develop a lot of our own trainings, but this was already developed by someone else. And so how did we come to support, train, and facilitate this with the agencies? And so I'm just gonna give you a brief little overview of it. So in 2011, 2012, MSS, our Ministry of Social Services in Saskatchewan, decided, well, they were kind of guided to change their assessment tools. And so they chose SDM. And so they implemented. And at that time, there was a little bit of confusion of what SDM was. MSS was also adapting their brand new database system called Lincoln at the same time. And so it was confusing because when you heard of it, it sounded like they were the same thing. And so people were wondering if SDM was a database system or if it wasn't, and who would collect that data, who owned that data, what does it mean to use this? Would it work for the agencies? Would it not? What is training? What are all these things? So there's a lot of different questions. And so MSS went ahead of it, and our board of directors was just like, whoa, we need to slow down. Some of the agencies were curious, and others were saying, no, we're not going to do that. So with Saskatchewan, the First Nations Child Family Service agencies currently are delegated agencies. So they run their own child family services through an agreement with the province. So it's still the province, but they have a delegated agreement to run child family services. So up until lately, like Saskatchewan has done amazing work and is ahead of the game, I feel like, in Canada within the work that the agencies have been doing to provide services for their children and families. Now we have the Act, or Bill C-92, that has come, and so there's again change in our work that we do, and it's exciting change, and it's great change to hear about the inherent right. And so really our role at the Institute is just to provide support in wherever communities are at, okay? And so it shifts and guides, but at this point it was all delegated agencies. And so our board of directors asked the Institute to do a needs assessment or a survey about what is needed to support this, and are people interested in learning about STM, or if this is the right fit for them. And so with that, there was a survey and conversations with different agencies, and we provided information workshops. And there was agency workshops about what it was, and from that we had like different recommendations. And so the recommendations were saying, hey, we need training in the communities. We need ongoing support after that training. We need it to fit our infrastructure. It can't be based on MSS because we are doing things differently. And we need to evaluate this, and we need to look at what's working, and can we use only parts of it or not all of it. And so these were lots of different discussions. And from there, the Institute hired their first STM consultant in 2013. Her name was Laura Hicks. She worked with the Institute for 7 years, and she just left. She is doing counseling now one-on-one. She missed working one-on-one with families. And so now we have another consultant hired, Ashley Ritz, that just started this March, and then myself. And so after Laura had been hired, she had a role in just building relationships and establishing trust and safety, and how do we do our approach. And so within our institute, again, meeting, looking at our values, making connections and collaborating, and who needs to be a part of these discussions. Identifying strategic partners, so who's going to help us with that. So connecting with Evident Change themselves, and so we have a partner with them so that we're getting training and information and support directly from them to support the agencies, and part of that is directly connecting Evident Change with the agencies. So part of our role is that collaborative approach. Connecting with agency infrastructure, so who needs to be a part of those tables, right? There is contact with the individual agencies, we doing readiness, and who wants to. So our services are always on invite, and so we're invited out to the communities. If the service is wanted, we come. We're not a regulatory, we don't say you have to do this. So it's a wonderful place to be, because it's just support, and I love being a support. We had a pilot project, 5 initial agencies implemented, and then I was hired in 2015. So I've just stayed. I'm here. One of the things that we did to help with some of the confusion or misunderstanding of what SDM was and what our role was and how we were supporting it and how it wasn't Lincoln or the MSS database system was developing an SDM FAQ. So that's a frequently asked questions. And so we have that posted on our website. We have a couple copies here if anyone's interested in looking at it. You're more than free to. And then the other thing is it addressed those concerns about customization, adaption, data ownership, because that's so important. And as we're here, we understand that this is so important. And then just looking at how we can clarify some of that and ease some of the worries, because when we have worries about something new, it's hard to navigate if this is something that's actually going to work or not, right? And so we need to have those conversations. So we just slowed down and had those conversations. So the role with any agency that is coming forward that wants support within SDM, we have implementation support. And so originally it was just looking at the infrastructure, and it still is, of what is an agency using, how do they collect data, how do they use their tools, are they paper, do they have a database system? And so we don't support one specific database system, we just support agencies with whatever they're using. Our role with MCASE though, and because we're at MCASE conference, is with our institute, we have member meetings. And so the First Nations CFS agencies are our members, and so at one of our member meetings, we had been asked to help find different database systems and just showcase them. And so we invited different ones, and one of them was Redmayne with MCASE that came and shared their knowledge, and different agencies liked it and picked it, right, over the other ones that we had presented. And it was on invite, right? So we didn't say that this was the one to go with, but we were just sharing information. And so they have, and so we've kept that connection too with MCASE and supporting those that are using it. And if you're using it, that's great. If you're not using it, that's okay too. And so with our implementation support, it's figuring out where you're at, right? And so sometimes people haven't even started using MCASE. And so I've been invited to sit down as part of the implementation support of looking at, okay, when we're starting a database system, how does SDM look in that? How are our training needs? How do we look at that? And how can we learn together? And so then I learn with them, and then I'm one of those support teams as we continue on to work. And so when we're doing training then, our training is focused within that infrastructure of the agency. So figuring out what, like if they're using the SDM tool, those assessments, but what are other things they're asking for? So before it was the agency like intake reporting form, right? Everyone had a different. Sometimes people talk about their investigations different. Sometimes child enhancement, different things. Like, so what are the roles within an organization? What is the process? What is the flow? So we look at that and then we build that within our training so it understands of when do I use this? Who's collecting this information? How do we have those conversations? And then with the training with SDM, we've also expanded with these different integrated practice strategies. So how do we build workers' skills in interviewing to, because really have that conversation with a family to be able to really assess. Because if you're not having those strong conversations, or if you're worried about how to have an interview with a child, then it's going to be difficult and you won't be able to do it, right? And so that's part of our support as well. And then looking at, so sometimes it's like, let's throw MCASE on the screen and we'll do the training and go through it together and do a full thing with MCASE up there. So it depends on the needs. The other huge piece is our on-site support. And so on-site support, normally I'm on the road, like I said, so I'm out with the agencies. We've adapted that so it's virtual, phone, text, different things, whatever we can do. Some of it with MCASE is we'll sit alongside, right beside someone and work through all the different cases with them and help them that way. Or they share their screen with me and then we talk it through. They're doing everything, but virtually when I'm far away, then we do it that way and just talk about the cases and just provide that extra support that way. So it can look a lot of different ways. Sometimes on-site support is group work, right? And having a group conference. So part of what we do, the other part that we do to support the communities and the agencies in which we work in my role is we have an SDM supervisors working group. And so we know that workers need that support, but supervisors need that support just as much or more because supervisors are the heart of an organization. And so they're the ones that are trained at the same time as the workers, and then they're the ones supporting the workers. And so how do we support the supervisors? And it's not just one person, it's a collaborative approach. So we really try to aim and meet quarterly and build a community of supervisors and that knowledge and experience from the supervisors to support each other and support and celebrate successes and the hardships. And so some of it's STM, some of it's just like the pandemic, the grief and loss of the pandemic, and just different things like that. And so that's a huge piece. Like I said, directly, and so we invite them and we host workshops where they come directly. We've also been doing workshops virtually with Evident Change and inviting them to do different skills and stuff. So if you're in Saskatchewan or really anywhere, we have 4 Evident Change workshops next week, virtually. So you can check out our website and register if you're interested. Tuesday morning, 9 to 11:30. Tuesday afternoon, 1:30 to 3:30. And then Friday, the same thing. But yeah, so we just expand our support, right? So wherever the need is, we try to support it. Now with that has again extended into supporting with MCASE, but also looking at research and how does that work. And so one of those research projects has been the disability project. And so my colleague Anuja here is going to speak to that a bit and just how the parallels and the strong work that she and others have done with this research project, because the disability project started in 2016, and it really is a collaborative based on relationships. And so, as an SDM consultant, working closely with different communities and being on site, part of my role is connecting and building that relationship with Anuja, and then just supporting where needed. And so it's been really, like at the beginning I have supported with some of that data collection and also just some of the rollouts, and so it's been nice, but she'll talk about that.
Thank you, Rachel. Rachel talked a little bit about the practices and programs we have at the Institute, and I will be focusing on the research, and we do different types of research. But my role as a disabilities researcher, I work on the Disabilities Project. So the project started in 2016, and this is our 5th year doing it. It's funded by Indigenous Services Canada. It is a little bit tricky, even though we started in 2016, it's really year-to-year project. It's proposal driven, so it makes it a little bit tricky doing community-based work and research. I also want to make a note that as a researcher, often I get asked, okay, so what do we do, what's best, or what do we choose, and things like that. But my role is really to learn from those who have experience in the field and ask questions to people and present the information as transparently as possible. So I'm always learning, and so it's been great being here and learning from everybody who's in this field. So the context for the project, this research project, like what we've heard yesterday and today, is the overrepresentation of First Nation children and youth in child welfare system, and the intersectionality or the relationship between disability and neglect and abuse. It has been reported, or studies have found, that the incidence of neglect and abuse can be 3 to 5 times higher in kids with disabilities. And finally, the lack of specific and reliable data related to disabilities among Indigenous kids that are in care, not only in Saskatchewan but across Canada. So the purpose of the research is to truly come together and co-create knowledge on this not lesser known area, but because we know that there is overrepresentation of kids with disabilities in care, but less documented area, and generate awareness, but also to support our partners and agencies in building their infrastructure and capacity in a good way. I want to talk a little bit about the way we do research at the Institute. So our research projects and all the research-related activities are guided by the Institute's Indigenous research paradigm, which basically is that we take a holistic approach and use an Indigenous lens at understanding the child welfare system. So we do more community-based research practices and that are culturally relevant and benefit the community. We go out to the communities, build relationships, build trust, because there's so much history around doing research ethics and things like that in communities, so building relationship is really important. We make sure that the research is respectful, responsible, relevant to those who we serve. So even though it has been 5 years that we've started doing this project, I started at the Institute last year, so this is my 2nd year of doing this project. So I just want to acknowledge the work that the researcher before me has done with the communities. So starting in 2016, the project really started building foundation and understanding what disability means and how people define or conceptualize disabilities in communities. So, because what we understand disability comes from medical model, right? Physical impairment or something almost sort of a disease or things like that. But how we and the communities define disabilities from a social model, so bringing in the cultural aspect and services and supports and everything, taking that holistic approach. The researcher before me also identified some of the challenges that were unique to each communities that she partnered with, but there were common themes as well. So gaps in accessing services and resources such as lack of respite, lack of physicians or occupational therapists, speech pathologists in communities, so people having to make that travel and come down to urban centers for those services. And also limited inclusive infrastructure, so transportation or accommodations in schools, in classrooms, for the kids who might have, say, sensory issues or things like that. But people also identified many opportunities for more community-based and culturally relevant programs and activities for kids. So having cultural camps, talking or connecting to elders, things like that for kids that might have range of different disabilities. An important thing was an underlying sentiment of recognizing the past and the legacy of residential schools on the current child welfare system. So in order to move forward, people felt that it was important to acknowledge the past and the legacy of, or the trauma that residential schools and the 60s school had left. Finally, there was also limited funding and training and information sharing that people recognized as a priority area that needs addressing. So the information was gathered really by talking to people, so caseworkers, caregivers, different agency staff, and community members. Another data was also statistical data that the researcher gathered. The tool that we used was a disability information tool. It has 6 areas of disabilities, including demographics, child welfare information, health condition, assessment and diagnosis, functioning, contextual factors. So really bringing in that social model or holistic approach to defining disabilities. So previously the information was collected from paper files, but as agencies are transitioning into electronic data systems, the tool can be used as a guide to support their transition and really to think about what types of disabilities information they want to collect on their data systems. So as a disabilities researcher, as I stepped into this position last year, that is what I've been trying to understand is the electronic data landscape in child welfare. So we explored different types of systems the agencies are using. So there's not just one system agencies are using, and even if it's the same system, it's customized and it's unique to the agency. Different types of data, disabilities-related data they're recording, different types of reporting people are doing, and what additional support they need. So this was more, we just scratched the surface. It was just understanding the user's experience because there wasn't a lot of information on that. But ultimately the goal would be to support First Nations organizations and communities in building their infrastructure and capacity to take data ownership, self-sufficiency, and to create data-driven practices in child welfare. But in order to do that, we have to go back to the basics and understand what data we're collecting and why we're doing it. Because a lot of data we gather, it comes from Eurocentric model, or you have some reporting requirements that tells you to collect different types of data, but truly understanding what types of data do we need for our programs and policies. So that is what we've done, but also on the side, last year, because of pandemic, the research had just been a little bit different. We had to come up with different more creative ideas to share information and knowledge. One of the big things we did was we did like a 7-week FASD knowledge sharing series. We brought in different experts, advocates, we had elders talk about FASD, and after that we compiled this resource, our binder FASD resource guide. It's just sort of a one-stop place for people to find information. If you have a new staff coming in who wants to learn about FASD, or somebody who might need a refresher, or if you want to give it to a caregiver, things like that, it's just a one-stop guide. Another thing we're doing soon, starting October 27th, is Autism Knowledge Sharing Series. It's free, it's virtual, and it goes till December 8th. So we have every week we talk on different areas of autism. So knowledge sharing series is also a big part of the research that we do. So lastly, I just want to go back to what I use this book as a non-Indigenous researcher to guide, the work that I do. So I do want to go back to Maggie Kovach's, what she's written is like research is an important part in child welfare. It might not always be evident, or there might not be evidence on what it has done, but research does guide policy and programs. So I want to acknowledge all the awesome works and all the different programs everybody's doing in this field, and I hope that the research and the information we produce at the Institute will continue to support that. Thank you.
Yeah, and so if you want more information or to connect to the different trainings that we have, some of them are free, some of them are cost, whatever. This is our website. If you go to our calendar of events, you can see the trainings that are being offered, what's new. We blog and share some of the updates that we're doing. We also have different tools and resources. With SDM, we have a manual specifically for those not on Lincoln, and so that's on there with different training aids that we've developed. And you can also enter your name in to subscribe to our digital newsletter and be entered in to win a prize. So if you have any questions, go for it. If not, we have some resources available that you can take at the front. If we run out, then you just give us your email and we'll mail it to you. So yeah, thank you everyone.